When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. RowPaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.
Yes, what's going on? Happy Sunday evening to you. Happy Selection Sunday to you. Thanks to RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics, Ridley's Family Markets. You can get more information, shopridleys.com. We are back. John Mallory, KTIK. He is a co-host with Mike Prater on Prater in the Ball Game. You can hear him weekdays 3 to 6 on KTIK Radio, 93.1 FM, 1350 AM, The Ticket in Boise. Also online at KTIK.com. My name, as it says there on the screen, BJ Rains with the Idaho Press and BlueTurfSports.com. And Johnny, I think this is going to be a fun one. A ton of discussion. Boise State doesn't get in the NCAA tournament, but they are headed to the NIT. If you have not heard, the Broncos are a number 2 seed in the NIT, and they will play number 3 seed SMU Thursday night. That game will be at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN. You get the ESPN primetime spot, but you also go up against probably the Michigan State-UCLA game. So not going to be all eyes in the country on this game by any means. But, Johnny, Boise State in the NIT against SMU, your initial thoughts?
Well, initially, not what they expected, not what they've wanted, but here they are. They're in the NIT. They're still playing basketball in March, and there's a lot of branches on, the Leon Rice Boise State men's basketball team March tree. And maybe this gives them a chance to, end on certainly a better note. And who knows, maybe contend for an NIT championship, which, if it wouldn't be celebrated in this town, is wrong. It should be. It's better to win the NIT than to not win it, BJ. And maybe get this team, finishing the way maybe they wanted it to. I'm not sitting here saying that winning the NIT is better than going to the NCAA tournament. That's not the case. You want to get to the dance, first and foremost. And this team, let's not sugarcoat it. This team should have went to the dance this year. They set themselves up in the best position they've ever been in program history to get not only an at-large bid, but a pretty good at-large bid. And to be honest, unfortunately, the last 4 games of the season, they couldn't jump out of the gate. They started sluggish. It seems like it took everything out of them to get back in those games. And in the end, it wasn't enough. So Leon and this staff, they're going to have to try to find a way to keep the motivation where it needs to be and, contend for an NIT championship. And how that would be viewed from this fan base, maybe we'll talk about later. But Leon's not concerned about that. He's trying to get this team right. And he's fortunate that he has the opportunity, BJ, to get this team right and win some games and maybe make some NIT damage. The NIT, real quick, BJ, I get it's the national invitation tournament, but the NIT is a regional deal. Nobody outside the NIT gives a rip about it, but if you have a team that's in the tournament, well, then you might have some investment there. And we will see how the Boise State basketball fan base and the community gets behind this team in the NIT. We'll see, bud, right?
Yeah, and I put the comment on the screen there. Go ahead and give us your comments. We'll get to them in a second. Does winning the NIT change your opinion on Boise State's basketball season? Does winning the NIT change your opinion of a disappointing 4-game losing streak if they were to go on a run here and win 4 games? Now, in a normal year, Johnny, you'd be at Madison Square Garden for the semifinals and the finals. Now you're playing in, Denton, Texas, on a neutral court there. But I'm curious. We did a poll on Twitter, and we'll get to the results here in a minute. But let's get the comments in now, and then we'll read them in a little bit on winning the NIT and how you look at what that would do for Boise State and Leon Rice, and would any of the pressure come off of him in terms of can't win in March, the expectations for this program. What would winning the NIT do for you? I do really want to get folks' thoughts on that, so get those comments in now. A couple news and kind of nuggets real quick. We should mention Abu Kijab, a torn rotator cuff. He's having surgery tomorrow. He is done for the season. And Max Rice is having 2 surgeries, one on his foot. He's also having hip surgery. So 2 of Boise State's key 8-member rotation are out for the NIT. I think you're going to see a true freshman, Pavle Kusamanovic, a Serbian that barely played this season that they really like and is a sharpshooter from the outside. You may not know the name Pavle Kusamanovic now, Johnny, but come Thursday night, I think you might. My understanding is he'll get some playing time. Some other guys might get used as well, but 2 guys are going to be down for Boise State in this game. But Johnny, SMU, their opponent, Boise State got the 2 seed. SMU is the 3 seed. SMU has only played 1 game since February 8th. They were off because of COVID issues within the program for over a month, and they returned on Friday and lost in the opening round or the quarterfinal round of the American Athletic Conference tournament. That was their first game in a month. But I know you did some homework on their roster. They did go 11-5 during the season, but they got one of the best guards in America.
They do, and he gets his points inside of the 3-point line, which is rare today for a 5'11 guard who is one of the best players in his league in this season. BJ Kendrick Davis is averaging about 19 points per, and he doesn't get most of that from the 3-point line. So I think this is an advantage for Leon, BJ, because I think he has bigger guards, and we'll see what bigger guards can do against a smaller guard here that doesn't rely on the 3-point line. I actually like this matchup for Boise State against SMU. Now, I get it. SMU, they're playing in their home state. They'll have that. But I like Boise State initially on this thing. But then again, I mean, this Boise State basketball team, the last 4 games, is what it's been. They stumble out of the gate. They have 4, 5, 6 points at the first media timeout. It takes them a while to catch up. They usually do, but by then, they're out of gas. So I don't want to sit here and fill Boise State all the way to the championship game of my NIT bracket. I got to see how this team's going to change. And you're saying right there's going to be new lineups. There's going to be kids that haven't been playing that are going to get to play. It's kind of like a glorified spring practice for football, only you actually get to play games. And I hope Leon and this team can take advantage of it because, BJ, they need to. They need some March flavor. Like, they need some March success, NIT or whatever. Leon needs to win a few games in March and kind of get that ball rolling a little bit where you have somewhat of a confidence level that you can go to the NCAA or the NIT and you can win a game or 2. So a lot at stake here, even though it's the NIT. I mean, it seems to me like where this fan base is with Leon right now, if he's one and done in the NIT, like, I don't know what the fan base is going to do with that. If he wins the NIT, if he wins this thing, I don't know what the fan base is going to do with that. It's this weird crossroads this program is in right now. And, I mean, I'm glad we all got a front row seat, right?
Yeah. Well, we have the poll on social media. We'll go ahead and get to that now. 455 votes on my Twitter account in the last 2.5 hours or so, Johnny. So that's a decent sample size, 455 votes. What would you think the percentage would probably be in terms of people being okay? The question was just simply, would winning the NIT change your feeling about this year's Boise State basketball season?
Well, my time with this fan base tells me it's all football. And let's be honest, it's BJ. It's football expectations. I don't care what the budget is. I don't care what the league is. Like, this fan base has football expectations with this men's basketball team. And thank football for creating that level of expectation. Boise State, the Boise State fan doesn't not just want to get not embarrassed with basketball. They don't want to punt in basketball either, right? They want to have a respectable basketball program. And with these expectations, and you are as guilty as anyone for driving those expectations, BJ, they didn't live up to them. And this fan base seems to be more than ready to call Leon out on that. I don't know what this does. I think most Boise State basketball fans aren't going to care all that much about this NIT run. I hope I'm wrong. We'll be talking about it on Idaho Sports Talk, but this basketball team and the way they ended this thing let a lot of air out of an already small basketball balloon in this town, bro.
Well, again, 455 votes on our social media poll on my Twitter account. Wood winning the NIT change your feeling about this year's Boise State team. Surprisingly, 44% said yes. 44% said yes. 56% said no. So it was, no was the winner, but I thought it would be greater margin than 56 to 44. That's not that much more than 50-50. So it's only a slight edge to no. It wouldn't change their minds. And I asked Leon Rice, we just talked to Leon Rice, by the way, Boise State coach. Johnny, you were on the Zoom with me and some of the local media talking about, this matchup. And I asked him how that would, from his perspective, how, prestigious is the NIT, or how do you look at the NIT and making a run there as opposed to not making the NCAA tournament? He brought up the fact that, well, there's only 84 teams still playing right now. There's 350 something Division I teams. Only 25% of them are playing in a postseason tournament. So you look at it that way, Johnny, and in simple terms, you're in the top 25% of college basketball right now. You're playing in one of the two prestigious postseason tournaments, and 75% of the teams are not playing this year, is what Leon Rice is basically saying. Does that mean you are a 25%, program? No, but I mean, in terms of this year, you're one of the 25% teams, 24, I think it is exactly, still playing in the tournament. I will say this. I had high expectations for this team, as you said. I thought the team massively underachieved. No one's going to debate that. I have been called a Leon Rice apologist, whatever, making excuses for him, however folks want to phrase it. I've said it was a debacle down the stretch. It was 4 horrible games. I don't think it was quite as bad as it looked. I mean, you lost the 2 San Diego State games, a top 20 team on the road, one in overtime, won by 4 points. That the Fresno game was terrible, obviously. Losing 3 times to Nevada just can't happen. But those guards were obviously terrible matchups for them. I just don't think they had much margin for error this year. A lot of their decent non-conference games, Tulsa, Santa Clara, the Scott Garson return got canceled. There was some other games that couldn't be played this year, which I think kind of left the margin for error not very big, not very good with this team. So with all that said, yes, it was a horrible finish. It was not the finish you wanted. But I also think you got to remember, Johnny, this team has been in the NCAA tournament 3 times in the last 27 years. This is not like this is Kentucky or Duke or something where if you don't make the NCAA tournament, it's an embarrassment for the program. I don't think this program is at the point where they can just, act like the NIT is not a big deal. I mean, Texas won the NIT 2 years ago. When Texas went to the NIT because they didn't make the NCAA tournament, it was a huge disappointment for Shaka Smart. Guess what? There's an NIT championship banner hanging at the Frank Irwin Center in Austin, Texas. So, is winning the NIT the most prestigious thing? No. But for a team that's never won a single NCAA tournament game, they are 0-7, Johnny, all time in the tournament. And like I said, they've only played in it 3 times in the last 27 years. I think would be a pretty big deal for this program to win the NIT. You look at some of the teams in this tournament. Memphis, who's got NBA players on their roster, and St. Louis and Ole Miss and Colorado State. NC State is like a 2 or 3 seed. And there are some quality teams in this tournament. So for a program that doesn't have a ton of postseason success, yeah, I think it would be notable and it would be a big deal, I think, to win the NIT. And I think it changes how you feel, because if they don't play in this, they end in a 4-game losing streak, and you would feel like just a really bad feeling going into the offseason. If they win, what would be 3-4 games, win this tournament, and all of a sudden you go in, heck, even if they win 1 game, for me, it changes the feeling of the season, just because you end the 4-game losing streak, you have a win, you have a little bit better feeling going into the offseason. But if they could win the tournament, I think that would be, you'd hang a banner, right? Would you hang a banner at Extra Mile Arena if you win the NIT?
Yeah, you would. But BJ, it's what have you done for me lately with this program right now? And that's where the fan base is. And they were led to believe that this was going to be the team that gets it going, that wins that NCAA tournament game. And They don't care about the past 27 years. It's like starting off right now. This is where Leon has built this program, so it's time to make a difference. And they didn't make a difference. They kind of have the same old song and dance come March. So good luck. Maybe you can do it. And you had that nice little soliloquy, BJ, but the fan base is not going to buy that. They need March Madness. They need the NCAA tournament. The NIT is a dubious tournament for this team to be in, considering all the circumstances with it. Now, I'm excited. We'll talk about it on Idaho Sports Talk. You're going to cover it. Hell, you'll probably fly down to Texas. You'll get a free week. Oh, BJ Rains gets a free week in Texas, hanging out with the NIT, hanging out with Kellen Moore, who Leon Wright said is going to talk to. We'll talk about that in a second. But no, BJ, no, you're trying to spray paint a piece of poop in the backyard and tell me it's a piece of grass right now. This fan base doesn't want to hear it. Now, winning the NIT, okay. Now we're talking. Winning the NIT, okay. Leon, you got everybody coming back from but DA. Next year, okay, it's really on. Other than that, you're probably gone next year.
Would it be a hot take, Johnny, to say that next year's team should be better without Derek Alston?
That's a hot take, but I love it. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. So
and it's nothing against bottom
line, BJ, going into next year, they probably have the most talented team in the Mountain West. And I can hear BJ Rains. I can read you right in the story right now. They got the best team in the Mountain West next year. I get it. But even more pressure on Leon. But no, you're not going to tell the fan base that this is kind of a good thing. This town wants Fiesta Bowl type of stuff. Even on the hardwood. Not happening.
That's why we have you on here, Johnny. You bring the hard-hitting analysis and the hot takes. But sure, getting to the NIT, sure. We're not going to say that's a success, but obviously. But if they were to win the NIT and at the home opener next season get to turn the lights out and put a spotlight up in the rafters and lower a banner that says NIT champions, I think that's something they could be proud of. And as Leon mentioned, a lot of teams have gone on from winning the NIT to propelling them in future seasons. We got a ton of comments rolling in. Dave Feldman, what's up, BJ? What's up, Dave? Appreciate you for watching. It definitely doesn't hurt winning the NIT, but it doesn't help the way the season ended. I'm hoping that some wins will jumpstart the future season, but an early loss would be devastating. So could this actually be worse if they lose this from SMU?
If they lose to SMU, who, let's be honest, probably beats them. I mean, why should we be convinced that this team is all of a sudden going to start winning games? They haven't been winning games, bro. If SMU beats them, it's not the biggest thing ever, BJ, but it adds a couple other logs onto the burning fire, okay? It's not a thing of gasoline, but it adds a few more logs. It keeps the fire going a little bit of Leon in March. I can already read Prater's next column. The Leon in March Part 2, where he adds the second edition, BJ, and he adds this year on to the column that he wrote a month ago about Leon and this program's deficiencies in this month. It's almost like you get to the NIT, okay, Leon, you better go on a good run here. You better. Because right now this fan base, sadly, whatever, does not have your back. They don't. They want you out. Look at the comments here. BJ, would you read a few more? Nobody wants Leon running this program anymore.
Well, that's another topic that we could get into here, depending on how much time you have. But, yeah, that certainly has been a hot topic. Let's keep rolling here, though, first. Do you think Abu will choose to come back next season? Now, this was actually interesting. I asked him about this because he kind of in passing said, we're going to have everybody back next year except for DA, right? He basically said that, Johnny, that we're going to have everybody back except for DA. And then that kind of – I followed back with that and was kind of wondering. He says, how does the NIT have any effect on that? The NIT doesn't, but his shoulder injury does. He mentioned him going to have a month rehab. They said he hoped that he would be back by September or October. You ain't going to play pro if you can't work out for a single team or do anything until September, right? I mean, does this – based on what he said, and I even asked him, like, well, why did you have a senior night for Abu? And he goes, that's a really good question. I have no idea. So to me, it sounds like
he's back.
Fair to assume that Abu Kijab will be on next year's team. So that could be a blessing in disguise, his shoulder injury, Because if he went through senior high, he obviously must have thought there was a decent chance he was going to leave. Now he comes back, you lose Derek Alston. And again, nothing against Derek Alston. He's a heck of a player. But when you look at the other players on this team, I think the pieces might fit a little better when guys like Dutrieve and Emmanuel Acott are more of the go-to guys on the team and not more role player type guys. I know you've been a big Devonair Dutrieve fan for a long time. They finally put him in the starting lineup the last game. I assume you're happy with that. It sounds like that's going to continue. And I think we could get a lot of Devonair Dutrieve and Acott these next couple of games, or however many games there are.
Yeah, Dutrieve led the team in scoring the only time Leon started him. It seemed to me like the only time Devin Dutrieve was able to get comfortable was when Boise State was losing. And Leon would say, okay, go in there and just do what you're going to do and get us back in this thing. So there's that. As far as, DA being gone next year, we'll see. You were talking about some of the guys coming up. Again, I know you, Rainmaker. I know you, Axeman. You're already hyping up this team next year, how talented it is. Like, this fan base doesn't want to hear it right now, man. They're heartbroken. They're bummed about this team. I mean, it's hilarious. I'm cracking up, BJ. I mean, they're going to be good. They'll be upper half Mountain West. They'll be a 1, 2, 3, 4 seed in the Mountain West Conference tournament. What are they going to do there?
I was just going to say, I think we've reached the point now, though, that this team could be 20-0, but until we get to March, people are going to have their verdict out. Right?
I agree. Yep. This is about March. And this NIT hopefully can, plant some seeds for this roster, which is like all coming back for next year in March. And I'm not just talking about the Mountain West Conference tournament. I'm talking about games in March too, about being ready for March. This year, Leon gave these guys a break. They lost the Fresno game, and it's like, oh, dude, we need to get away from basketball. Coaches don't do that typically. It's March. We're not getting away from it. We're moving forward to it even more so. It's March. Gut check time. Let's go. We're not taking time off. I think that backfired on Leon a little bit this year, but I'm not sure what I would have done either. They couldn't win a game, and they were close in every one of them. They couldn't win. BJ, did they have a lead in any of the final 4 games?
Yes.
The Nevada game, they did not. The Fresno game, they did not. The 2 San Diego State games. I mean, was it even 2-0? Did they have a lead?
They did. 2-0 in the second San Diego State game.
That's it, though?
It might be, I think, yes.
So, yeah, they haven't led in a game for 4 straight. Like this.
They led the Fresno game. In the Fresno State game, they were up by 9 with 5 minutes left.
Gotcha. So they had that. You're right. And
they were up by 9 in the Fresno. They were up that game and then kind of blew it at the end. So are you saying
they need to figure this out? They've been they're slow out of the gate every time. First media timeout, BJ. I don't think they've had 10 points after the first media timeout in the last 4 games. They're really easing into the game, and obviously that's not the game plan.
So would them winning the NIT change any of the Leon Rice can't win in March narratives?
Yeah, I think it would a little bit. It would say, okay, it would take a tiny little bit of the pressure on him next year, because the pressure on Leon next year, he gets another really good team minus Derek Alston, but everybody else we think is coming back. So he has another run where in league play, he's going to have the more talented team in just about in 80% of the games he plays in league next year. He'll have more talent. Forget what the budget is. He'll have more talent. So this is big for him next year, and maybe winning the NIT can take a little pressure off, but not much, man.
Oh, I think there's no doubt he goes into next season on the proverbial hot seat, because you got a new athletic director. I don't think there's any chance he gets fired 2 months after the new AD comes in, but he'll have a year to kind of, look at the situation, look at the budget, look at the history. I think there's no doubt about it that next year, probably you could say, I don't know if it's NCAA tournament or he gets fired, but I think there certainly is a legit chance if they don't have a good team next year, that could be a whole different topic. this time next year. Now, a lot of people do want him fired right now. I just don't think we're quite there yet. I think the timing of the new AD isn't ideal for that. But I would agree with you that, he may say, okay, you got another year, but, we're tired of going 5-7 down the stretch to finish the season. Like it's time to, figure this thing out and win some games in March. So I think he does go into next season on the hot seat. And I know Mike Prater's column in the Idaho Press today talked about that, where Jeremiah Dickey's in a really tough spot because you can't fire him. You probably can't get him to redo his contract. No coach is going to say, yeah, I'll just redo the contract. I mean, would that be nice? Yes. But you got to figure out some way to light a little fire maybe under the program, put a little pressure on him to say, it needs to happen or we're going to go in a different direction here. So I think it's a tough spot for Jeremiah Dickey, but I think that I still think Leon Rice is a good coach. I still think it's just been a lot of things that have happened, and certainly they underachieved this year, no doubt about it. It's been a debacle down the stretch, but I still think that he can break through and can make it. You're right. I go into next season probably saying that it's another team that should be NCAA tournament or bust, but I think next year it is NCAA tournament probably or bust, or Leon Rice may find himself out of a job. Let's go to some other comments here. James says, amazing how Utah State, who is in, Boise State beat them twice. He said, I get they beat San Diego State twice, but practically tied them twice on the road. No problem not getting in. But how is Syracuse in with 1-7 quadrant one and Utah State in, but we're not? I don't think Boise State was having much of a case against Syracuse. But again, I think the margin for error was really low on Boise State. I mean, Boise State wasn't even in the first 4 out, so I don't think there was really much of a debate on Boise State whether or not they should have got in. You'll like this one, Johnny. Curtis wants to know, can we hire Jeff Linder from Wyoming? That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it can't. I mean, Jeff Linder's contract indicates his buyout doubles if Boise State comes calling. So Boise State, where they are right now in a position financially, they would never call Wyoming and offer that much for Jeff Linder. I get that Linder is very respected in the Boise State basketball community, as he should be. The last 2 times Boise State went to the dance, they were at-large bids, and Jeff Linder was their offensive coordinator. They also had Dave Wojcik. They also had John Riley, who's now the associate head coach at University of California at Santa Barbara, who is actually dancing. That is part of it for me. I think Leon 6-7 years ago had a tremendous staff that, in my opinion, he doesn't quite have yet because they're either head coaches or obviously high-level assistants. Jeff Linder is not coming to Boise. Jeff Linder's next job will be in the Pac-12.
Yeah. A couple of questions coming in here, Johnny. I totally agree with you. I think Jeff Linder, what he did, by the way, in that game against San Diego State in the quarterfinals of the tournament was unbelievable. I've never seen something like that. Literally, would just the guard would stand at the top of the key with the ball, let the shot clock go down to like 12 seconds or so to limit the possessions, and he was literally like an offensive coordinator surveying the defense basically, but like would just decide on a play and then call a play, and they'd create some sort of mismatch, and they'd run their quick play and get a shot. I mean, every single time. It was incredible. So I give hats off to Jeff Linder. Heck of a coach, always one of our favorites, still jokes around with us all the time, and looking forward to seeing what he can do, because Wyoming has some talent, man. They're a team that's going to be the Mountain West in general. I mean, the comment here says next season is make or break for Leon Rice. I'll be curious in the schedule if they go back to the home and homes with every team, or if they like this idea and just do the 2 games again and like flip the schedule or something. I don't know. I would assume they go back to the regular schedule of home and home for everybody, which is obviously more fair. But you're talking about San Diego State probably not going anywhere, even though they'll lose a couple guys. You would expect them to kind of reload. Colorado State's going to have everybody back. Nevada should have everybody back. Utah State's going to lose Cada. They're going to lose some guys. I'll be curious what they do. But Nevada and Wyoming and even Fresno, if Robinson comes back, this is going to be it's going to be 7 or 8 teams, Johnny. There's not going to be too many off nights in the Mountain West. And you had San Jose changing their coach up, New Mexico changing their I don't know if you saw Richard Pitino's name surfacing maybe as a possibility in New Mexico.
Love it.
How about Richard Pitino at New Mexico and Rick Pitino at UNLV?
This gives Rick Pitino hopefully more of a reason to take that Vegas job. It's not open, and it probably won't be. But
Yeah, we
for
were
me,
talking
there's
off
not
air
a
about
better
that.
fit. There's not a better fit in coaching in any sport than Rick Pitino at UNLV. He'd have the Rebels in the Sweet 16 by year 2. And it's funny, you talk about the Mountain West next year. I like everything you're saying. The one thing where the Mountain West is not where it needs to be in regards to is UNLV and New Mexico. Those are 2 flagship programs in this league that are used to going to the dance. UNLV was a factory in college basketball. Honestly, in the last 40 years, it's one of the top 10 programs probably in college basketball. It needs to get back. And they had it. They hired Chris Beard. He hung out for 3 weeks, and then he left him hanging and took the Texas Tech job in Lubbock. And what did he do a couple years later? He got Texas Tech to the national championship game. They barely lost to UVA. UNLV had their coach. They hit on him, but he just left him, BJ. They need to hit on that again. The Mountain West, make no mistake about it, needs UNLV and New Mexico to be flagship programs in this league. We all like San Diego State, great program, but they just don't draw the eyeballs the way UNLV will. I mean, if you can get this league where you have UNLV, New Mexico, and San Diego State going to the tournament every year, and then the other teams try to play into that, it's only beneficial for your league. So yes, UNLV, New Mexico, clean it up. I'm sick of this.
You see Curtis, he says more dance girls for Pitino. There'd be a nice crew there at UNLV probably.
Yes, he'd hang out with Gruden. Him and Gruden would be great. Vegas is ready. They have NFL. They have NHL. You know, they don't have NBA. Perfect. They got the Thomas and Mack Center that you've been to, like I have. It's an NBA-like arena. You know that. They're just waiting to get UNLV basketball back. They need the coach. Rick Pitino, for me, is the guy. Hire Rick Pitino. You're on the Sweet 16 by year 2.
And we're saying that because TJ Otzelberger is rumored to maybe be going to Iowa State. And then if Richard Pitino gets fired in Minnesota or just decides, it would be weird because here's Derek Chave 5 says, how about Dutcher might be leaving to Minnesota? If Richard Pitino leaves, Dutcher has his dad, I believe, coached or played at Minnesota. His wife's family is all from the Minneapolis area. There's strong belief that Brian Dutcher might take the big pay raise, go back where it all started for his family, and finish his career coaching at Minnesota. I don't know if that would happen or not, but that there could be some movement. There already is movement. 2 coaches gone. I'll be very curious to see who gets fired, who gets replaced at San Jose State and at New Mexico, and how that goes. We do have a question here, Johnny. How far do you think San Diego State can go in the tourney? You mentioned San Diego State is a 6th seed in the tournament, and they are actually playing Syracuse, right? The 11 seed Syracuse Orange in the first round.
Love it.
Utah
gamblers, I don't know what they have to lay. They'll be favored. I love San Diego State against Syracuse with the points. I'm going to put money on that game. Dutcher's going to get Boeheim. Dutch is going to get Boeheim. After that, I don't know. Here's the problem about San Diego State. We're just waiting for that Elite 8 trip. They're maxed out at the Sweet 16, and that's how they've been. And the committee has kind of put them on there right now, giving them a 6 seed. I like what they do. Dutcher is, what's the spread, bro?
-3 for San Diego State.
I love it. San Diego State, lay the 3. They're going to win by 12. I love that bet. I love it. Everybody's going to bet Syracuse because nobody knows who the hell San Diego State is. They're all going to take the Boeheim bet. Take San Diego State on that. You'll laugh all the way to the bank, BJ. But as far as them getting out of the Sweet 16, I wouldn't count on it. But Dutch isn't going to Minnesota. He's making $1 million living in the best city in the country in San Diego, man. I love San Diego.
I was just there, man. My wife was trying to convince me to find a job there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll go work for Mighty 1090. You go work for San Diego Union Tribune. and the real estate is so expensive, our families will just go together in on a house. And me and you will create the greatest man cave that's ever been created.
Well, we kind of got derailed here. We were talking about Boise State's game and their season. Now you have questions about Mountain West coaches. Which Mountain West coach is on the biggest hot seat? Is it Leon going into next season?
Yep. Leon is the ultimate hot seat in the Mountain West next year. Deservedly so, BJ. Don't have his back on this one. Leon is on the hot seat next year. Dude, absolutely. Especially, he's going to have a good team coming back. He's going to win his 18 games. Seriously, Kurt Apsey giving Leon this deal. Hey, just win 18 games, and I'm going to roll your contract over. That's your expectation for your basketball team? That's like a football coach, football AD saying, hey, go 6-6, and I'm going to roll your deal over. Winning 18 games? Dude, they win 12 games in the non-con every year. I can't believe that. That to me gave Leon way too much cushion on this thing. Next year, yes, he's on the hot seat going into the year, and he should be. And I would imagine he would admit that.
But it sounds like, and I kind of agree with you, that if he can make something of this tournament, the narrative maybe changes a little bit. If he can win the NIT,
that'd be cool. Yes, that'd be fun. I think this fan base, look, if you can have a top 15 football program and with everything going on football, the enthusiasm level, the excitement that this fan base has for this football program right now, if you can give me a New Year's Six type of football team and an NIT Final Four type of basketball team, I think this fan base would be cool with that. I do. It's about football. It's a football school. You know that.
That's my whole issue. That's my whole issue with some of the people and the expectations on this program. I know you disagree a little because you claim it, talking about it being a one bid league for most of the time, but 3 NCAA tournaments in the last 27 years. I mean, this is not a program that traditionally gets to the NCAA tournament. And when they get there, they've never won a game, 0-7 in the NCAA tournament. So to act like it's NCAA tournament or bust every year, to me, just seems like a little far-fetched. I mean,
I just thought this year was different.
No, and it should have been. It should have been. I'm there with you. I hyped them up. It should have been. If you want to say it was a 1 or 2 games, 1 or 2 possessions that cost them, that's fine. I mean, it wasn't like this was some terrible team, but they'll let you are what your record says you are, as they say. You're and you're 18-8, and you lost 4 in a row, and you cost yourself a chance at being in the tournament. Now, we mentioned San Diego State got in, Johnny. Utah State did get in. Were you surprised at all to get a second Mountain West team in there? Utah State will actually play Chris Beard. They'll finally play a Mountain West team. Texas Tech is the 6th seed. So 2 Mountain West teams do sneak into the tournament.
The tournament has such a funny way of making these matchups, and maybe it's all coincidental, but Utah State playing Texas Tech. I mean, what is this, the Matt Wells Bowl? I mean, these 2 programs have traded off football coaches and whatnot, and that's kind of a funny thing. Chris Beard, in my opinion, I like what Utah State does, but I'm going Chris Beard on this over Craig Smith. I don't know how many points I'm going to have to give. 6, 5, 6.5-ish, but I like Texas Tech in this game, and good for Utah State for getting in. It's nice for the Mountain West, but I think they're one and done.
I
like Tech.
You're guessing the spread is somewhere around 6. Texas Tech is -4.5.
Yeah, I would lay the 4.5. I'll be honest. I will bet money Texas Tech -4.5. I like that bet.
Well, as we wrap this up here, Johnny, we do have a couple more comments coming in. If you have a final question or comment, we will try to get to it, but we can't keep Johnny here all evening as much as we'd like to. Sadly, the NIT is in March. Leon Rice and March don't go well together. Tough. It is a tough crowd, Johnny. I know it was expected, but it has been a lot of negative thoughts around here in terms of Leon Rice since that game. But I think this is a chance for them to go on a run and make something of the season still and change the narrative a little bit. Are you expecting on your Friday Idaho Sports Talk show, when I come on the show on Friday, for for my 4 o'clock segment, or are you expecting to talk about a win or a loss against SMU? What's your initial first reaction, first prediction of the game? I don't know what the line is for that one. I haven't seen it yet, but what's your initial thoughts on this game? Is this a one and done, or can they make something in this tournament?
I think Boise State wins by 20. I think they handle them. I think they'd play with no pressure. They're in the stinking NIT. I don't think there's any pressure left on this team. Derek Alston goes in to this. Is this my final game or not? I think they all play well. I have Boise State in an easy peasy versus SMU in the first round. I think they handle them and move on.
Wow. Speaking of spreads, by the way, somebody wanted to ask you, Johnny, the Central Florida Boise State season opening football spread. Any guess at that one while we're talking point spreads?
Yeah, I got UCF -2.5. And I love Boise in that game. UCF with the new coach. Obviously, it's Gus Malzahn, but he was late to the party there. UCF has a really good quarterback. So I would be nervous about UCF's quarterback against an inexperienced Boise State cornerback situation that I think they're going to have. But no, I would take Boise State plus 2.5 or 3 at UCF. UCF will be favored because they're home and they should be. But I like Boise State in that game. I am buying in to the enthusiasm in this Andy Avalos era. And I think they're going to make one of the furthest road trips any school is making this year, Boise to Orlando. And I think they're going to get the win. But, man, we're on Selection Sunday, man.
Yeah,
we're talking Labor Day. We're talking Labor Day college football spreads. I love it. But, man, don't get me too excited too early, man.
It tells you all you need to know about this fan base and how they feel about the NIT if they're asking about Boise State, Central Florida point spreads. Bob Easter does say Leon is a great coach, lay off, and this will be our final question. Somebody does want to know if Leon is out, what's Phil Beckner up to, or Kobe Carl? What do you think? It's always fun to speculate. We love doing it for the football coaches. Where do you think the just out of pure speculation, where do you think they'd turn for a basketball coach?
Yeah, I mean, Leon Rice is making $750,000. I think there's a number of high-level coaches that would take this gig for less than that. Kobe Carl would be one of them. Now, he's still with the G League. He's with the Lakers. I don't know if Kobe Carl wants to leave that situation, but he is living in Boise. And if this job were to open, I would hope at least Kobe Carl would get an interview. Now, I will say this. Jeremiah Dickey, in my opinion, goes outside the family for a basketball hire. He has a lot of experience at big-time level college basketball. Now, he did hire Andy Avalos, and that was kind of a push to hire him. Like, you're going to hire one of our guys. You're just getting the job. Here's who you're going to hire. And it was a great hire. But I think if he has an opportunity to go basketball, I think Jeremiah Dickey's going to open this thing up. And I think Jeremiah Dickey's going to hire the best guy for the job regardless, best person for the job regardless if they have any Boise State basketball ties, right?
Yeah. Can we take
I like Kobe Carl, but you're not just going to hire Kobe Carl because he played here. Jeremiah Dickey's going to look all over the place.
I know you're the big name dropper, Johnny, so I'll just say that I played golf with Kobe Carl over the summer, and me and him were in a little two-person kind of scramble thing, and we won a little cash that day. I'll just say that.
Nah, he's a good dude, huh? I love Kobe Carl.
Good golfer, good dude. And I think he wants to be an NBA head coach, though, and he's one from that. I don't know if you come back to be – do we end it?
If they offered him the job, he'd take it. But I think that's a long way from happening, BJ. Leon Rice is going to be here next year. That's a done deal. Done deal. Leon's here next year. So you might as well support the team because they have a lot of good players coming back. And hopefully come March – next year, they don't pee the bed.
Do you want a football quarterback question, or do you want to get out of here?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, they want to know Jack Sears or Hank Bachmeier, who's going to be the starter next year. Where do you go there?
I'm going to go Jack Sears. I think Sears starts week 1.
Wow.
I think his skill set. Yeah, I think Tim Plow's going to fall in love with his ability to throw the ball. Look, here's the thing. We all love Hank Bachmeier. He's completed 62% of his passes as a Boise State quarterback. 62% is a low percentage in a Tim Plow offense. I think Tim Plow's going to go with Sears because he's going to complete a higher percentage, and I think talent-wise, I'd give the edge to Sears. But I think all that said, BJ, I think Hank has the best chance to start. But I mean, they're going to be tired of talking about it, right, BJ? Because that's your lead. That's your lead in everything you're doing with Blue Turf Sports, right? We got a quarterback competition, and there's 2 4-star high school quarterbacks. Another thing is this Kalen Green kid, 6'6", spins the ball well. Like,
I saw him at practice,
smokes, man.
He was pretty impressive at practice on Friday when I watched him out there. And we'll have plenty of time to talk football. Appreciate the comment. They want to know how long we've been on. Too long is how long we've been on. We're pushing 45 minutes here, so we'll wrap it up. Will this be available on Twitter? Missed most of the show. Yes, if you're coming on late here, this does cycle back onto social media. It'll be archived there on Twitter, Facebook, also the newly created Blue Turf Sports YouTube page as well. Key Jab will be back given Torn Rotator. We did spend plenty of time talking about that. I would guess yes that Abu Key Jab is back next year. But Johnny, give us a quick preview of your show Monday, tomorrow, 3 to 6. It'll be Mike Prater, John Patrick, John Mallory, KTIK Radio, 93.1 FM, 1350 AM. What do we got on Monday's show? What to talk about?
Well, it's a bracket Monday, man. How fun are these? Everybody's filling out their brackets. We'll go there. We'll talk NIT with Boise State. We'll talk Boise State spring football and the quarterback competition between Hank Bachmeyer and Jack Sears. We got a lot. It's a fun week. Everybody, this is one of the great weeks of the year, BJ. It's March Madness. We got the tournament, man. We're filling out our brackets. Go to KTIK.com and participate in our bracket challenge. $1 million if you get a perfect bracket. $10,000 if you get 60 picks correct. So, yeah, get to KTIK.com and sign on up, BJ. I love this time of year. You kidding me? I gotta go start filling out my brackets, bro. I do.
Well, somebody wants you to start talking some Boise Hawks baseball here, apparently, so we can't keep everybody happy. But
how about Mariner baseball? Better chance to win the World Series. The Mariners or the Cardinals?
This is the best time of year with the tournament and opening day right around the corner. We did just confirm, John, I got the text here, for football interviews tomorrow, we'll be having J.L. Skinner. The safety will be on the list, as well as Divine Obasheri. They're hoping to have George Halani as well. So we may get Skinner and Halani, 2 headline guys. Football interviews tomorrow. I'm sure you'll have some sound on your show from that. And then we'll have, obviously, story in the paper as well. But, Johnny, appreciate your time, man. This is always fun. We went a little longer than I wanted to, but appreciate it. And hopefully folks will listen to your show tomorrow. KTIK.com is the live stream as well if they're missing it. I have the podcast. I hope folks download the KTIK Idaho Sports Talk podcast on iTunes. That's the easiest way for me. I can't listen to the show live all the time, but you got your guys' little picture on there.
BJ, my agent hates you, man.
Why is that?
Because you don't pay me for this stuff.
Oh, well, we're giving you free plugs right now. So download the app and listen to the show. And yeah, we had a lot more questions coming in. We're not going to get to them. We'll do a football spring one at some point. But Johnny, thanks for your time, man. This was fun, and we will we'll be listening tomorrow, and we'll be watching Thursday night, 7:00 on ESPN as Boise State gets set to play against SMU in the first round of the NIT. Appreciate it, buddy.
When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. Ropaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.